Assalamu alaikum, good evening. My name is NAILA SHUJA, and thank you so much for tuning into Faultlines here on PTV World. Now, as we are well aware, Pakistan is once again facing one of the harshest reminders of its climate vulnerability. The floods of 2025 have basically devastated provinces from Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa to Sindh, areas like Gilgit-Baltistan, and millions have been displaced. Hundreds have lost their lives, crops, livelihoods. And it is absolutely devastating, completely washed away. Villages have been washed away, and the scars of 2022's floods are still yet to heal. That being said, that this tragedy, however, is not just a natural disaster, and these are some elements that we will be talking about today. It is more of a political, economic, and moral fault line that we will be discussing. It basically exposes the failures in governance as well, the injustice of climate change itself, and the fragility of our infrastructure and the resilience of our people, which is absolutely strong and intact. But tonight we're going to be examining the 2025 floods through a different lens, climate change and global justice, furthermore discussing governance and preparedness, as well as economic losses, human cost, water insecurity, and the road to climate resilience in Pakistan. That being said, I would love to introduce our wonderful panel for tonight, starting off with Dr. Irfan Khan, climate change analyst, former faculty dean at the International Islamic University. Then we have the wonderful MUNIR AHMED, who is the president of DEVCOM, and joining us online is Ms. Mehek MASOOD, who is an environmentalist. Thank you so much for joining us online and in studios. Wonderful to have you all. Again, just to reiterate, 2025 floods have been extremely devastating. 2022 floods were, devastating as well. But this time around, shouldn't we have learned from the failures of the past?
Certainly, we should have learned from our past. And this is not the first time. And even 2010 floods were not the first one. But unfortunately, over the decades, we didn't learn. And we didn't, follow the good governance practices. And even like we are repeating our mistakes the same day by day, year by year. So that is causing basically more losses of lives and livestock and certainly infrastructure and but this is quite unfortunate. Like it is not, we didn't learn that our past, that we should have more, forests, and we should have cleaned our rivers. There shall be no encroachments, and there shall be no illegal constructions in the catchment areas of the rivers. These are the few common mistakes that we are repeating again and again. And with the passage of time, the climate impact is increasing as well. As we see, it's a global phenomena, and entire world is suffering from it. Even those countries that emitted most of the greenhouse gas emissions, they are also suffering at the moment.
Absolutely.
And besides, like if we go through the Conference of Parties, Paris Agreement was like a milestone in negotiations on climate change. But unfortunately, the funds pledged for a Green Climate Fund were not fulfilled even after 10 years. And Pakistan also, launched a diplomacy campaign for a loss and damage fund, and after 2022 floods, and that was quite successful, and that fund was launched. But again, it could not get that much funds as pledged. Even the pledge was much lesser. Like it means like those who are like the culprit or like responsible for the greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming and climate change, they are not contributing to the vulnerable nations, even to mitigate the floods and the monsoon rains that is caused by climate impact. I believe like this is surely injustice on the part of global powers. And meanwhile, I also see it as like negligence on the part of local authorities, local communities, district managements. Though we have our federal policies and even our provincial policies, but those policies are not translated into concrete actions on ground, and the local degradation that is enhancing and multiplying the impact of whatever the impact we are having.
Absolutely.
So these are like a couple of things that we shall be taking care of.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Irfan, understanding the government element of climate change as well, we've had governments from the past, current governments, and we'll have governments in the future as well who will focus on tree plantation. There was a campaign by previous governments, the tsunami of trees. So again, coming back to that, we have the timber mafia, we have various actors who are playing a significant role, but they don't really understand the implications that are going to perspire with this lack of understanding that what they're doing to the natural environment. It's not just climate change, but it's also the soil. Right? It's also the soil that's being affected. It's the way that our agricultural areas are going to be impacted. So understanding that element, can you elaborate and just explain to us what some of the repercussions can be for over harvesting, cutting down trees and making sure that, eventually we do plant as many as we cut down or twice as more?
Actually, the question you posed is a multi-pronged this area. Poor governance one side, corruption on the other side, and compliance to the law and enforcement of law, that is another aspect. What we have not yet learned from there, that we are having planting, as you said, billion tree or million tree tsunamis, etc. But now everybody is talking about the cutting of the trees, particularly in MUNIR. We have seen it was not the fresh trees coming out there. It was just pieces of those old that clearly indicated that something was happening over there, and that was happening due to this cutting of the trees. So instead of planting, we have been cutting, and now the forest cover that reduced. And for that reason, the soil that also could not be managed in that area, and it's flown away. The actual thing with this disaster preparedness, that indicates first you assess your risk and then you go for risk management. And what we are saying disaster management. Disaster can't be managed. In fact, these are the risks associated with this. You see, even then, although it's late, but good one, here in the Punjab, the government response of rescuing and evacuating the people just a day or 2 days before have saved a lot of lives. Yeah. Otherwise, it could have been more devastating in that impact. So if we have done this proactive, then it must have been further less. And now with this displacement, the next challenge comes to there, where they should be accommodated. What are the conditions over there? So with this all, I think disaster risk management is the main priority. And first we have prepared, I think, the district disaster management authorities and district disaster risk assessment and multi-hazard assessment kind of reports, but not all again. But we have just on these papers, very good, fine, fancy reports, very good policies on this matter. But when we come to implementation of those measures recommended in those reports, where we lack here. So that's the real problem.
Absolutely. Now, Mehek, coming to you, given that Pakistan has contributed to less than 1% of the global emissions, it still remains, amongst the top 10 most climate vulnerable countries. How have we witnessed these 2025 floods basically revealing, what global climate injustice is?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for having me, and a very pertinent question. Yes, we are among the most vulnerable countries that has been hit by the climate crisis at the moment. And we see in this 2025 floods, we see such weather anomalies. It's so unpredictable scenarios. If we see cloudbursts. Even in this span of last 3 months, we see different sort of flood disasters hitting us. Like one is the excessive rainfall, the cloud burst, and urban flooding. So I would say that it is something which is very concerning, and as it's been explained earlier, that we really need to think now forward that from this proactive reactive approach, we need to go for a reactive resilience, because this is we would be hitting in by these multiple facet natural disaster, be it the hailstorm, be it cloud burst that happen due to warming of temperature from one side, and then it will make a cloud burst in certain areas, and urban flooding. So we really, because now since we are hit from this thing, now we really need to see, do these needs assessment, also these case studies analysis, how we can move ahead and to do it, and also have that data in place that can link that these all are happening due to increase in temperature, what is going on the global level, the temperature rise, the unprecedented carbon levels increasing, and how it's hitting us directly. And we can see in last 3 months, like in Pakistan, um, it's difficult. It's just sometimes if we are commenting on the governance and all, but do we really are we ready to deal with these multifaceted natural disasters, which could be in different forms. So now we are in the intersection of like vulnerability at the moment, and then the other side is unpredictability. How we could do it, we need the technological support, we also need financial support in that way, we also need a institutional framework changes, but all these things we have been hit. And as you say, you coined the term, the global climate injustice is something we are now facing. The anomalies, it's not been here earlier. We do have floods with excessive rainfalls, but now in this very small period of time, we see different sort of disasters hitting us in a different way. Though I understand we do have urban flooding, we do have these other governance issue, but this is something we are facing the brunt as well of the rising
Absolutely. No,
temperature.
thank you so much, Mahek. Now, I want to switch it over to Dr. Irfan. Pakistan has demanded, commitments multiple times on multiple occasions. So that being said, how has this affected the loss and damage funding at the COP summit? Furthermore, how is this climate, how are these climate drivers making Pakistan uniquely exposed to such the disasters even more?
I think there's the multiple
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
First, coming to the realization of this loss and damage fund, established in 2022 at the COP27 in Egypt, and then operationalized again in next year while we were at Dubai. And then last year in Baku, this rules has been framed over here. As of today, nothing has been disbursed from this fund to any country.
Yeah.
But there is another side of the story also. We have not been pitched any project. It's not me, it's our finance minister just few days back in end of August. He said since 2022, we could not prepare a project for financing to submission to anywhere. So that's lack on our part. Another thing, from the previously, after the 2010 floods, in 2011 to 16, we got a GLOF project from the UNDP that was nearly just little less than $4 million. That's finished. And in 2017, we got another upscaling of the same project, and it was $37.5 million. That could have been finished on 2023, and now this is 2025. It has been extended up to December this year. And out of this 37.5 million so far, we could only utilize 34 point something. And project extended. That put a question mark. That was specific to the northern area, GB and this Chitral districts of the KP. But now people will ask, that has been spent on there. And that was including this number of bridges, this number of culverts, this number of underpasses over there. So everybody will ask, what was the impact of this already given funds? And then if you go to next year, the Brazilian and the COP 30 at Belém in Brazil, and if you pledge this fund, they may ask you, we have given you this one, please show it then. So I think we have to put our house in order as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very well said. All right. I'm so sorry. मैंने बस headlines करनी है और फिर हम बाकी गुफ्तगू. Now, Dr. Irfan mentioned that MUNIR has been severely and significantly affected, but the question remains, Mr. Ahmed, how and why are certain areas like MUNIR disproportionately affected? That's the main question here.
Not only MUNIR, Swat is also quite vulnerable, and some other are also very hotspots. It is basically the severe environmental degradation over there. MUNIR once was like quite, there were like quite forests, like green cover, and secondly, the over construction of housing and other infrastructure within the river and on the banks of the river. That was basically. And the third thing that created that disaster was GLOF, the glacial lake outburst. That was very immense in it, and it created more floods and like immense floods and widespread. Despite like there are two major interventions to control floods and to educate people about it, unfortunately, both projects could not deliver the desired results. And on the other hand, it is more on the shoulders of the local administration. They did not comply with the environmental protection orders, or every construction was in the absence of environmental impact assessment. Like once you don't take preemptive measures or the haphazard development, that create more mass around, and once like you have immense flash floods or like the glacial lakes outbursts, and that create problem.
So do you think
in
that
case
these,
of Swat River,
I'm so sorry to interject, but do you think that these areas should be labeled or identified as climate emergency zones?
Of course, I think after 2010 floods, I stressed upon hazard mapping, and and then developing a strategy accordingly. But unfortunately, when we say like disaster management authority, as Dr. Irfan said, even their own officials say that when disaster comes, then our responsibility starts. I think we shall focus more on a preparedness, a pre-disaster management of degradation, relief and rescue capacity building, and those areas that have already suffered massive floods or monsoon rains, they should be declared as most vulnerable areas or hotspots, and strategies shall be developed accordingly. And after 2025 floods, you are right, it shall be declared as the emergency zones, and accordingly our rehabilitation process shall start. Absolutely. Unfortunately, KP and GB, they suffered a lot before Punjab. Still, we don't see any major interventions in Gilgit-Baltistan and in KP. Both governments are just talking some rhetoric things, but the action is missing out of their in their governance. So I believe they should jot down at least 5-7 points of action, and they should start immediately tackling those emergencies at there. And at the moment, Punjab and Sindh, they are more vulnerable to floods, and as we see, more than 8,000 villages are submerged in Punjab, and about 2 million people were evacuated, and it's like a very, we shall appreciate Rescue 1122 for taking care of those people and evacuating on the instructions of the Chief Minister. And at this time we see, like if there is a good leader at the top, and then the bureaucracy can also be like more proactive, and actions are taken accordingly. But still, entire Punjab shall be declared as the emergency zone.
Absolutely.
And yeah, because the entire crops of the Punjab have been submerged in floods, the loss of infrastructure, and the loss of lives. Like more than 800,000
Yeah.
people have been
Absolutely.
died in the floods. The loss of education institutions, health facilities. I think
Basic
it's a
infrastructure.
complete devastation of Punjab at the moment. And if the people say, the experts also, and the government is also saying, like it's like water terrorism by
Yeah.
India, and we shall take up this point at international level and ask for justice accordingly, because we are. I think we need more proactive approach, like
Yeah.
while approaching international agencies, and we need a consistent pressure and influence on such international organizations that can play a role of arbitration between India and Pakistan
Absolutely.
on these subjects.
Absolutely. Mehak, I wanted to come to you and basically ask you, do you agree now that, people are taking climate change more seriously than they did before? And given the fact that we just discussed with Mr. Ahmed that, there should be an establishment of climate emergency zones, do you agree to this, or do you have a, difference of opinion?
I totally agree what's been said. I would say climate emergency zones, because we really need to identify the climate vulnerable zones. That we really need to dig down and do the climate vulnerability assessment, not only on different sectors like on agri-base, on the health sector. So we really need, and we lack that data. So we don't know, like I mean, as we say, discussed, like Sawad, Munir, they have different these disasters has hit different areas of Pakistan in different facet way. In Punjab, we are more hit in the agriculture lands are being undated. So we really need to do these climate assessments. And yes, we need to identify that most climate vulnerable zones may and how to preparedness, as we just discussing this earlier, that these zones, they when we have those zones marked up, so we will treat them differently. Well, we treat the development there differently, we treat their the treatment of governance would be differently, the budget framing and budget allocations and all those sort will be it. The climate lens should be there in our policy planning and even now the implementation. So that's, I think it's a crucial step. It's a high time. And as you given the reference that now people are talking about climate change. So when I started my undergrad in 2024, 2004 and onwards, we used to talk about these climate change. When we, as a young students, we advocate about the subject, and we tell them about smog and all sort of these disasters. So people have the least ear to us on the topic. But now, since we are now hit every strata, but the lower strata has been hit more. But now we are seeing carbon flooding and all these scenarios. We are now, it's a matter of concern for everyone. So not only these climate emergency zones, we really need to also assess the urban developments, how they are also being impacted. We need to know the correct economic analysis of these climate disasters which we are having, how we can foresee. So it's a long, risk assessments which we really need to do. And one of the panelists earlier also mentioned on the risk assessment and the disaster management. And there's very correctly said we really need to have preparedness, but we really need to build the resilience as well, and also the risk assessment. That's really important, and definitely we really need to declare our vulnerabilities and also zone them out, and so that we can act more proactively in the coming years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Irfan, again, there are cities like Karachi that even though their streets were submerged with water, they still were facing water shortages. So what are some ways that maybe we can manage this, this greater capacity of water that's coming down from the mountains and from the glaciers, and actually, you know, utilize this water rather than facing water shortages every year?
You see, what you're talking about, Karachi, and similarly in Gujarat, and sometimes in Islamabad also, there are three categories of floods. One is the riverine flood, the surface water, that also include the glacial melt. Other is the flash flood that we have in coastal Oman, here in the Dera Ghazi Khan and Rajapur district over here, very hill torrents. And the third is urban flooding. Urban flooding, main responsibility is not on the rain only, it is our poor governance, administration, the rain drainage areas, they blocked, encroached. Like in Karachi, we are giving example, there are many government buildings, including the parking of the Supreme Court Registry. They are on the water course.
Yeah.
And similarly, the office of their municipality, also on the rivers. So in that case, for urban flooding, I think we have to control the encroachment, illegal establishment on the water courses. For the hill tolerance in this area, again we have to teach people of the community at the grassroots level.
Absolutely.
But again, you see, when we have this Disaster Management Act, it has very categorically defined a National Disaster Management Authority as a federal body, and then provincial PDMAs, Disaster Management Authorities. And it also established another one, this is District Disaster Management Authority. In all these crises, we are not listening anything about DDMAs. And I again quote our foreign minister's quotation a few days back, Khaja Asif, saying that yes, we need to establish the local government system fully, because anything moving from far away, it takes time. And the local bodies, the district level, they know what are their vulnerabilities, what are their risks, how it can be managed, immediately the local. So now the local government system, they has to be established for this disaster management locally. It can't be established from any establishment body sitting in Islamabad as a federal. They can give policy direction and many other things. Second thing, in our fiscal budgets, the space, we have to allocate now very clearly, categorically, the funds for this area, because this is now question of security. We are talking about structural and border security, that's very important. And now this is the water security, the food security, the energy security,
that's
which all
another question I
related
wanted to ask you as well.
They all have become a non-traditional threat to national security, this climate
Exactly,
change.
yeah.
So in that case, we have to take it as seriously as we have to take our structural security. If you compare the devastation, the casualties, the damages that have not been done on this 10th May operation with India, that we have done with this flood. So it means this is a more disastrous than any traditional war. So then we have to come for our governance system, come out of these policies and the plan, come on ground, take actions. Now every district has made their disaster management plan and the climate change adaptation strategies, climate change adaptation action plans. They're just on papers. Come on, come to the plan. Similarly, in my school days, we used to have civil defense institutions, the volunteers, Razakar. I think these kind of institutions, because our nation has a very good zeal for joint action to support each other under these kind of crises, maybe not in the others. You have seen this now, you have seen in the, we have to establish our youth, organize them in this way, doing something positive. Like we used to have an NCC in our college days.
Absolutely,
right? A similar kind of program against the disasters, we have to prepare our youth from that level. At the college level, certain kind of practical training, how to deal, how to react, and how to respond to certain calamity. It's not only the flood, earthquake also coming in.
I feel like there would also be, with all due respect to the educational institutions, they might feel like it's too much of a burden that they already have to bring new courses in regarding you know, safety, health management, regarding natural disasters and natural calamities that take place. Again, given the fact that we have a, you know, a bulging youth population, maybe what are some of the ways that we can inculcate the youth into trying to make sure that events like this don't happen? Because we have, you know, wonderful students coming in from all over Pakistan. If they go back home and play their key role, maybe planting 10 trees, maybe, you know, making sure that they're not building on top of rivers, making sure that they're following the safety and proper hazard guidelines. How do we think we can motivate the youth and make sure that they play a positive role? Because again, we do have a lot of patriotic Pakistanis, especially after Bunyana Marsoos, Marka-e-Haq. We have that passion. But how can we utilize that passion for nation building, especially when it comes to climate change? Mr. Ahmed, would you like to add to this?
Certainly, yes. I endorse the points mentioned, Dr. Irfan. We need basically bottom-up approach now. As I mentioned about hazard mapping, it's like most vulnerable hotspots.
Yeah.
We need to identify, and then we need to have a bottom-up approach, and now we shall have a community-based disaster preparedness and management action plan, so that the action plan shall come from the communities and it shall be supported by the district management and provincial governments. Also, like federal government can also have its, and again, like we have a national climate policy and also provincial climate policies. But I think this is the time we need to have a national climate task force type thing, where we shall have the provincial representation with the federal, and also people coming from the vulnerable areas. The more that we have most vulnerable, and also we need to include now the experts and the community leadership in it. Like, it shall not be like a few bureaucrats just coming in the task force and talking all the same repeated things. Now we shall talk about the action plans with the participation of community leaders and the experts, those who can provide a real-time action and for preparedness at the ground level. So most of the funds shall go there, and 3-4 things shall be taken, as you mentioned that some years back, I asked a couple of universities, even the Higher Education Commission, that whatever the semester assignments are, it should be around such kind of green interventions. And the students shall be given, instead of writing long papers, cut and paste, they shall have certain community actions, and they shall write a report about it, and they should be judged like accordingly, and they shall be given marks accordingly, according to their community
this actually
actions.
reminds me.
But unfortunately, neither Higher Education Commission took it seriously, and they just established a climate section there, and millions of funds are just like dispersed for I don't know what type of research papers and what is the utility of those research papers, but they are not relevant to our real-time issues. On the other hand, Higher Education Commission also established its SDGs cell, yeah. But even that SDG cell has could not have like real-time performance. So we have infrastructures, we have awareness about it, and but unfortunately we whatever institution we develop, whatever intervention we take, it does not translate into real-time fruitful action. So basically now it's converting into meaningful actions. So yeah. That should deliver community resilience, and there should be like more preparedness on ground. Otherwise, maybe next year we will be talking about the same things again.
Absolutely.
And again. One more thing, after every floods, after every disaster, we go in like hibernation.
Yeah.
And we believe that we have played our part of in like sensitizing people or talking about it, and but the time has passed, and so we go to hibernation. But we shall not sleep over whatever we talk now. Afterwards, it should be translated into meaningful action plans, engaging communities, early warning systems. We have like we always talk about early warning systems, but unfortunately, community-based early warning systems are absent.
Yeah.
And even in GLOF, as Dr. Saab mentioned, they put up, they install like more than 136 early warning systems. But the question is, how many of them are functional and transmitting data in real time? And how many early warning systems are with our Met offices, and what kind of data they are transmitting? On the other hand, how many telemetering systems we have on our rivers?
Absolutely.
And what kind of data we are getting? We are living in the satellite age, and it is not like NAILA would share data, so then I would come to know that this situation or the data.
Absolutely.
But now we can use satellite. There are many other organizations, they are taking, using satellite for data
Absolutely.
collection. And that can be,
Yeah,
utilized for our
absolutely.
planning and management before disasters come.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Let me add one thing to
Of
this
course,
about the
by all
youth
means.
program. See, under the Prime Minister Youth Program, there is a component of the project, GYM, Green Youth Movement Clubs, that have been established in 137 public sector universities 4 years back. And they have given 5 different themes. And they're all given not very big, like 200,000 rupees annually, some kind of budget, and they are also raising their memberships over area. And similarly, from October 2023, Higher Education Commission has totally revamped its undergraduate 4 years program. So 2 components in that compulsory component. One is the capstone project that should be in the 7th and 8th semester. And before that, there is a community work involved in that. So now combining this Green Youth Movement clubs under this theme, and student taking it up as their capstone project, which is a mandatory requirement for their degree. So I think that will be a thing that will give fruit, I think, maybe after a few years.
Absolutely. This is what I was trying to bring into the conversation. Back in university, in our first semester, we had a community service project in which we had to plant a tree. And throughout our 4 years of, bachelor's program, we had to make sure, and the tree survived, just as we would survive in university, naturally. So it was a part of our community service program that's required for us to graduate and obtain a degree. But I feel like that taught us a lot of very important skills, that what we do, how we do it, even if it's one small plant or one small tree, it does have an impact. Because now when I go to the same park and I see the tree, it has grown just as I have grown. So it's a really beautiful understanding of, trying to look at nature from a different perspective. But Mehak, I want to come to you now and just really figure out, when we talk about climate resilience or climate resilient, policies and initiatives, what are some initiatives, or what are some areas, or what is the understanding regarding farming? Because given the fact that a lot of our plain areas or farming land has been destroyed because of the floods, and the water has damaged the soil to that point where it's just not arable land anymore. What are some ways that we can play our role as those living in the cities to make sure that we're able to still provide for everyone, and even if it's like micro gardening?
Very interesting question. Yes, I think as a country, we are an agri-based company. The panelist earlier is explaining that we have a lot of youth bulge as well. And the researches and projects should be based on the practical and also with, I would say, with an entrepreneurial mindset approaches. As we say, we do have now, we are moving away from our main agri as a being an agri-based economy. should have diversified it in more way. But we can, as I mean, it's a very, but every steps makes a difference. So we could have kitchen gardens now. We could also promote that urbanization spirit in our living when we are living in cities. We really need to do that. Also, we have to see diversify our methodologies of plantation. And if we're talking about the resilience, this is the way of developing resilience, how we can there's a different methodologies and farming techniques are available globally, where uh, there are aquaculture technology for farming. Then we do have in the we have a coastal communities as well, where we can increase the mangrove agriculture drive. As a citizens, as living in these cities, what we can do, we can also support the local produce. We support the organic produce. Um we and also at our end we have a lot of like there's a space, and we need to bring that we can grow our food. I was in Australia, and there was one of my courses was on the sustainability and behavior change, and this in one of the assignments it was like how you can make your own food, own soaps and everything without go to the consumerism side. So yes, that's something which we could do and practice. I would always reckon in my talks that we really need to go back to our basics, how we have in earlier the days of Pakistan, we were, with the panelists also agree that we were living a simple lifestyle. We used to have our own bags. We grow our vegetables as well. There's always a garden which have a fruits growing. That trend has diminished. And also, yes, you were explaining, listening to you, you plant a tree, uh, and that was one, and then you are taking care of it, and it's grown to a one level, and you develop that ecocentric values in that way. So we could do, it's like we can develop these patches with communities. Where in Islamabad we're living in a certain sector, so certain areas could be developed as a kitchen gardens, where I know it would be a very small step, but things like that where we can engage in activities which are closer to the nature can bring a lot of values, and also the resilience as well. And I was listening, like the bottom up approach, I totally agree with it. We also need to have more connection with our rural community population. They really need us now. So we also need to think the ways where this urban rural urbanization can merge, and see the synergies, how we can support both ways in that way.
Absolutely, very well said, Mehak. Thank you so much for your wonderful opinions with us. That was Mehak MASOOD. She's an environmentalist. And to our wonderful panel here in the studio as well, Dr. Irfan Khan, again, climate change analyst, former faculty dean at the International Islamic University, and Mr. MUNIR Ahmed, president of DEVCOM. Thank you so much for joining us in studio and elucidating us regarding everything that is climate, because again, this is a tragedy that is happening here in Pakistan, and it is our job as Pakistani citizens to make sure that our fellow brothers and sisters throughout the country are taken care of. Climate change is real, it is happening, and we must be proactive. That being said, my name is NAILA SHUJA. Thank you so much for tuning into Faultlines here at PTV World. Take care now.